What I want to do is allow the artists to have a conversation with you guys, a dialogue with you guys, tell their life story, well, all in 10 minutes.
All right, my name's Samara Weaver. My work is over there. It's the very colorful, layered paper piece and then the ceramics below it, along with some ceramics over there. I grew up with art all my life, which has been wonderful. My father's actually also an artist and also in the show. His work's back there. And growing up, I also have learning differences. So being able to actually make art and succeed at that was really helpful getting me through school. Worked out okay. I have my master's in architecture, so everything was fine. And I worked in architecture and construction for a little while. I then left that and kind of took my art on full time. So I've been working for the last almost 2 years doing my art and my ceramics full time and my studios at the Delaware Contemporary.
My name is Charles J. And I did the flower paintings right here. I grew up in Morton, Pennsylvania. Lived in Westchester a little bit. Went to Paris for a little bit, came back. Well, my study over there in Paris was just me. I didn't go to any school or anything. I just painted. But none of those were done over there. I don't have any. It's oil paint. I always liked what the Flemish and the Dutch masters, Spanish masters did. I don't paint like those guys, but their influence, I guess, is in my work, you know. I think it might be better if somebody asked me a question. You know?
I just start off and say, I think you're beautiful. And I know say, you know, and if you're there, you're studying.
Well, yeah, I looked at it a little bit harder.
I'm not saying you're not doing other things.
Yeah. Yeah.
Charles, is that the largest painting you've ever done?
No, it's not. I guess the largest was about that tall and about that wide, but I don't know where it is. It might be down in Exton. I don't know.
Charles, how long does it take you to do one of those pieces? Start with, like I said, the small ones.
Well, it just depends on how much time you spend painting. Well, I usually work on like 3 at a time. Mostly. Well, I mean, you put a flower down. Sometimes you got to wait for it to dry, and overlap it or something, and you go to something else. Small paintings, couple of weeks. You know, because you just don't do everything all at once. Depends on, you know, how much time you spend painting, how many minutes a day or an hour, whatever.
Okay.
Yeah.
Beautiful work, by the way, Charles. What inspired you to focus mostly on flowers?
That was the easiest thing for me to do. I started out really, well, first I started painting with watercolors, because I didn't have any oil paints. So I went out and shoveled some snow, you know, brought some oil paints from that. But I started out actually painting, I guess you would say, landscapes. Sort of landscapes and a few people and whatnot. And what I would do is just cover the canvas just with paint, all kinds of colors and stuff, and then try to pick out stuff from it. And most of the time it would turn out to be a landscape, because nothing else would show up. And flower painting, it was just easier to paint flowers. You know, you put one flower down, another, and then you can sort of make them up. And it was just easier to do flowers. I had no imagination for trees or landscapes, really. Yeah.
Charles, what actually led you to paint in the beginning when you were young? You know, what was the influence?
Other than just drawing, I like to draw. Like in school, you would have a drawing class.
Yeah.
So I like to draw. And I wish I had some of those drawings now, but I would draw, it's like war scenes with tanks and airplanes. well, that would be some of the stuff.
Yeah.
But drawing, just,
Yeah.
I mean, other than that, I don't know.
Something just led you to it, kept you going.
Yeah, I just don't know, because, if you were to ask me, what do I like to read? My three subject matters I like to read most are Bigfoot, UFOs, and books written by gurus.
My mother and my father both encouraged me at a very early age. I grew up in a very competitive family. I'm one of 15 children.
Wow.
And I have 10 sisters. And my parents could have wrote the book on parenting, I thought, because they never showed any partiality. But they made all of us feel like we could do anything. And I stuttered, and art gave me my self-esteem. It helped me to be able to stand up in front of people and talk. And at an early age, I would copy pictures out of books, out of newspapers, and my teachers saw that I had a talent. My mother was my first critic. She would critique everything I did, and she would give me pointers on how to improve what I was doing. I came home one day, I was in first or second grade. My mother was talking to Miss Myrtle Smith, who lived next door to us. Well, we migrated from Georgia during the Great Migration. We moved from Georgia to Chester in 1943. And she was talking to Miss Georgia and Miss Virginia Farrell. Miss Virginia Farrell was from Virginia. And my mother was showing them a drawing that I did, and Miss Georgia was arguing with her. She said, "That boy didn't do that. Ain't no way." And my mother was livid. And from that point on, I realized that I had something special. And my mother said, "You have a talent, and you better do something with it." That stayed with me. I enjoyed doing people, and I always saw things as subject matter, whether it was the watermelon back there, the face of the lady back there. I met her at the Professional Portrait Painter Conference. She was from South Korea. Her name was Suki Lee. And when I took her picture, she said, "Well, what are you taking my picture for?" I said, "I'm going to do a portrait of you." So she laughed, and I made sure that I did. Other pictures that's my sister and her friend and their grandchildren in the Heinz Refuge in Philadelphia. The picture over there with the two boys, they are the Powell twins. They grew up in my neighborhood. They lived down the street from me. The lady in the headdress, I named her the Queen. The man over here smiling, I was always concerned as to how male black men were perceived. It was always negative. So I always wanted to make him look positive, but not aggressive. So it was important to me that I portrayed what I did on a high level. That was the most thing I was concerned with. I was blessed to have people that came into my life. I guess they were placed there. For instance, I met my mentor, Sam Brown, a Philadelphia artist. He taught 35 years at Dobbins as an art teacher. We were in a show in Cherry Hill, and we were the only two African Americans in the show. He talked all day, and he had the most gorgeous watercolor paintings that I had ever seen. And at the end of the day, he gave me his key to his house. And he said, young man, I want us to stay in touch. And I did that, and he was the first one to teach me watercolor. The picture of the boys is oil, all the rest are pencil and watercolor. I always was interested in doing whatever I did. Blue is my favorite color, and my favorite subject is people. I was always trying to, when you're a member of a family of 15, you do all kinds of things to get attention. And getting attention from my parents was huge. My mother and father were people, like I said, they could have wrote the book on parenting. To raise 15 children, and for everybody to turn out the way they did, nobody went to jail. It was so much positive that I felt like I had to be a reflection of them. For my art, I always had support from my wife, Mary. She made it possible for me to do what I was doing. She was a school teacher, and she supported me. If I went to an event, she would set it up. And she would always do it in a way I couldn't. And one of the things that my teacher, Mr. Brown, he said, when you set up your art, he said, don't stand by it. Just go somewhere and walk around. He said, because people has a tendency to attach your appearance with your work. And so I was surprised. I won a few prizes in different art venues. I've been in the Rittenhouse, and I've been in many shows that I would have never got in if it wasn't for Sam Brown, my mentor. I have always felt like one of the things he said to me, he said, art is a lifetime journey. You can't take it with you, what you learn. The most important thing you can do is share it with others. I also teach drawing and pencil and watercolor in several areas. And I just love what I do. At this point in my age, I feel blessed. I'm 82. I have been blessed with health. I served 5 years in the military. I went to Germany in 1960. I guess those of you old enough remember the environment in this country in 1960. When I went to Germany, it was a culture shock because people treated you in a humane way that I was caught off guard. And I just appreciated it so much because so many things about our country make you build up feelings that are difficult. And a lot of things that we're processing and working on now are things that need to be addressed with our behavior with each other. So my goal has always been to build bridges with other people and to let them know who I was, the type of person I was, and how thankful I am to be blessed to be able to draw and paint and teach. Thank you.
Dane, I want to thank you for making it possible for me to come here and be among all these wonderful artists, sculptors. I mean, we grow as artists when we surround ourselves with other artists. We really do.
Right.
So, just briefly, I grew up in Coatesville, Pennsylvania, not too far from here. I've been drawing since I was about 5 years old. I am not classically trained, but I never remember not drawing. I always drew. I had great parents. They always gave me a sketchbook. When I didn't have a sketchbook, I drew and painted on the wall. For the last 43 years, I've been a professional watercolorist. I've made my living, put my daughter through school, bought my house, everything through watercolor. I think the pivotal part of my whole life was, I went to my wife, she's over there, Linda, and I said, I want to become an artist. It's a true story. I want to become an artist. She said, she looked at my work, which I still have. I look back at it now because you never get away from what you started at. So I showed it to her, she said, you're going to have to get a lot better. She had a business mind. I thought I'd work 3 or 4 years, I'd be discovered, get a big gallery and, you know, drive away in my Porsche 911. Didn't happen. I've shown all over the country. I've done outdoor art shows. All of us have done outdoor art shows. A crew, a mailing to crew people who love my work. I have collectors all over the place. My wife and I have traveled all over the world. And each time I go someplace, that's more impetus to me to paint. My work's over there. Well, I'll go over and show you. This is a maple sugar farm in upstate New York. Fell in love with this place, and I got to talk to the people who ran it, and just the feeling of it. So when I got back, I had some sketches, but when I go someplace, I don't sketch, I don't draw, I look. I take it all in. I mean, I just live it. And then I take thousands of photographs. I'm an awful photographer. Awful, but I just hold up and shoot. When I get back, I put everything together, look at it, get the feeling, and what I paint is how I want you to feel as how I felt about it. Another one from Lancaster County. This is where I live. I mean, this is home, the skies and things. And I tell my students when I teach that light is everything. My painting is light or everything. This is Winterthur, the museum in Winterthur. I love the patterning here, and these are all watercolors. That's all I've done. These are all the patterning here. I just paint around things in light areas, but I try to get that painting imbued with the light that you see right here coming through. This is just here, just the color and the feel, the metal, and then another one here is just inside. It was just a restaurant, anywhere. I walked in, I saw it, I said, wow, that makes a great painting, and just took a picture of it, went home, I guess about 3 or 4 weeks painting. I paint every day. About 17 years ago, we decided to do what's called painting a day. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. Yeah. It's discipline. Well, when I first started, it was the hardest thing I ever did. For one thing, I painted a lot anyway. I would do probably 150 to 200 paintings a year anyway. But when I started painting a day, which was, it was a means to an end, was cash flow. We needed to make more money. We had more monetary obligations, so it was a way I could get my work in front of people. My wife did all the business end of it. I didn't think about that. All I thought was, how am I going to do this one painting every day, and then wake up the next day and do another one? And after about a month, it started to flow. And what I found out is, after about a year, 2 years, it was almost like it just flowed right out of my hand. I'd read where, I think it was Winslow Homer said that in the latter part of his career, his work just flowed right off his brush. And it felt that way. I've been doing it for 17 years, and I can truthfully say that I love watercolor. I paint every day. I paint incessantly, all the time. I'd be painting here if it wouldn't offend my brother right here. But I'm not going to do that. But watercolor is what I do. We market it, we still do it, and I'm still in love with it. Thank you.
Is Gilberto Wilson. My experience is quite different from most of these other young ladies and gentlemen that are here on tonight. I'm an immigrant. My family migrated here from Aruba back in the 60s, 1968. And up to that point, I had no encounter with art whatsoever. We had no galleries in Aruba. I remember one gentleman who painted. He painted religious scenes in his little shop when I would go to my grandmother's house. But for the most part, I had no culture in terms of art and so forth until we moved here. So my art career began to blossom in middle school. One of the things that has always propelled me along with my work is a need and a desire to tell a story. That abrupt move, it seemed abrupt as I look back because I have never really gotten over it. To go from, for those of you who have been to Aruba, you kind of know what that place is like. I remember the days when no one knew where Aruba was, didn't know what it was. And to come to the Bronx in 1968, the Bronx, in the midst of the Vietnam War, going to middle school and being encouraged to join the Black Panther Party. I mean, America was 360 degrees totally different from what I was used to. Experiencing snow for the first time, never knowing. I mean, when I walked out of the airplane, this was before, we had these terminals where you don't feel the weather. You literally had to walk outside, down and in. It was cold, it was like a refrigerator. And so my work has always been personal, but primarily social-political. That is what has moved and motivated and pushed me. My work is over here. I will go ahead and say that, like so many of my associates, I have been very blessed. This one, and this. My mother was very supportive. She didn't understand anything about art. Okay? When I was in college, when I was doing video, and it was cumbersome to get on the subway with the cam and decks and all, she said, here goes the card. Use the card so you can get to school. So she has always been extremely supportive. I've always had very supportive people, but in my world, not too many people understood my gift, except for me. God understood it. And I say that because he always made a way for me that I would always be in the right places at the right time. Imagine someone who, just coming out of high school, I did an internship at the Museum of Modern Art coming out of high school for a summer. I went to Cooper Union School of Art and Architecture. Then I came here and I went to Tyler School of Art at Temple University. Because of life, I have not really been able to do what so many of my associates have done all of their lives. I've always worked, but not to the degree that you say, you've been doing it for 17 years. I've had spurts, between kids and family and bills. For me, I have always had to work. My last major commitment was to Stroman. I was a Stroman driver for 23 years. And for those of you who don't know what that means, it means that you get up and you're at work at 1:30 in the morning doing your job and you don't get home till 3 or 4. But I still managed to find time to work. And so work took on a whole different character for me. At times it was almost therapeutic, to kind of get away from all of this and just holding on to that day that I could just get in my workshop like I can now and just work. You know, and that's hard for most folks to understand. It's like, you know, you haven't all, no, you know, I do what I can, but now, thank God, I'm able to get in my workshop. All of these pieces are new. I've retired the past 6 years. I've been retired, and I made a commitment to do my art full time because I've been so unable to do it for most of my adult life. You know, it's almost like there were different seasons in my life. And I just wanted to share this one comment. I remember when I was a young man when I first came to Philly, and I was talking to some associates and friends, and they said, you know what, if you really want to judge or tell how good an artist is, come back and see me in 30 years. Let's see what you got. Well, I'm here to say, you know what, I'm in my late 60s now, and I've got some stories to tell. I've got some stuff to say because it has always been in me, and now I have an opportunity to literally unleash it. At a time when most people are slowing down, I'm excited. I'm a kid. I'm a kid in a candy store. My work primarily is silkscreen is my base, and I use everything. I do watercolor, I do painting, I do other printmaking processes, I do collage, because to me it's about fun. And that's what I try to emulate in my work. I try to inject it with excitement. You know, I try not to be dictated or controlled by any one medium. It has to be, I used to be that way for years. When I took a photograph, I couldn't dare do anything to it. I had to, this is a photograph. But now I will take that thing, rip it up, you know, do whatever the spirit leads me to do. But all of that took time, you know, so yeah, that's my story. I do much better answering questions, but I know we have a question and answer session. But that's me, Gilberto. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I am here to represent my late husband, Ben Richardson, who some of his art is here, and I'll just give you a little background about Ben and his love of art and how he got started and how things progressed. So Ben's dad gave him a Yashica camera when he was in high school because, well, Ben was a very shy person, a camera you can hide behind. So that was his beginning of his love of art. Ben went to college and studied psychology because I was in his life and he needed some help. But Ben, so he took that camera, he took pictures and never shared them with anyone. And then he had friends like Dane Tilghman, who knew Ben was a talented photographer. Ben was a photographer first, and then a videographer, and then a cinematographer. And then one day he woke up and he says, I paint watercolor, gentlemen, but like I take classes at the Art Center I've been taking classes for 10 years, the same teacher, the same class. But Ben just woke up, he says, I think I'll try that. And then it's like, okay, Ben beat me again. So then Ben was working at TV Guide, and he got an opportunity to go on become an assistant videographer, photographer for a Peking to Paris trip. Okay, how lucky is that? And so he goes to his employer and asks for a leave of absence, and they turn him down because it's fall preview time. So I don't know us older people know fall preview is in September, so you can't get off from work. And so Ben's like, what do I do? And I'm like, okay, you get to travel through 13 countries and get paid and do what you love. Why don't you just go and we'll see what happens. So that was really the beginning of Ben's career as an artist, because started in, the race was from Peking to Paris, but he couldn't get into China because of visas and passports and the whole bit. But anyway, so they go right to the border, him and the company he was working with. They go through 13 countries, and he takes a million, I'm exaggerating slightly, pictures, comes home and tries to develop all of them. And then, through all these countries, and he met all kinds of people. In Iran, he just felt like it was he's like, why do people talk negatively about Iran? These people were wonderful people. So he ends up staying friends, getting in contact with them, they're in contact with him, and he goes back. And he sneaks a camera in, sneaks a video camera in, and creates a documentary film, Conversations with Iran. It's shown here at the Art Center, his photographs, his video, and then things just took off. He's at Westchester University. He is at Millersville University. He is at all kinds of places, all in film festivals, and then it's Ben. He comes home and he says, I think I heard about this it's not a new medium, it's encaustic painting, but it really looks neat, and I think I'm going to take my photographs, and I'm going to learn this technique, and I'm going to put some wax on my photographs. And okay, so I'm just going to walk over here. I'm almost done. I'll just sort of show you. So I believe Ben's favorite subject is people, because almost every photograph that he took had people in it. So these are encaustic. They're his photographs with encaustic over top. This, and then these are some of his photographs. So, gosh, I'm getting emotional now. But anyway, so the story is then 6 years ago, Ben's hands started shaking, and we go to the doctor after his wife is looking after him, right? And he gets diagnosed with ALS. And then 2 years later, Ben is gone. But his millions of pictures that he took all around the world are still here. And so we shared a few of them. John got in touch with me, and so we just shared a few of Ben's art pieces here. And thank you.
I think I had more than my moment.
Good day, Mike. Nice stories here. My name's Cardoza. Unlike these other artists coming out, I was rock solid. Just kidding. Now, my name is Cardoza Jacks. I am from Coatesville. And honestly, I just really recently started getting into art. But growing up through Coatesville, I was always gifted with drawing and doing things like that. Very much into sports. I have ADHD, if you the guys that I cannot sit still for. I have bipolar disorder, so it's, the mood goes. But it just recently started recently getting help with all that. But going up through high school and middle school, I was a wreck. So I had gym most of the day, most of the time. Recess was extended, and art class was extended. So it's just like, just let him go until he's going to play football, he's going to run, and just let him do what he does. So I do think I thank Coatesville for working with me, honestly, and they've been a help. I had coaches in my life that's just like, so.
It's good.
It's all good, brother. Very good. That's right.
All right, well,
Your mom's family.
It's good.
losing parents at a young age, like, it makes you really appreciate, like, the adults around you, like the elders around you, so you can really, like, learn things from them. So, growing up, it was like, my parent was, my father, I lost my father at the age of 7. So my uncles and my other family members that, you know, they filled in, did a great job. Especially with me going through the things I'm going through. I was bad as hell. I mean, trust me. I mean, I was no saint. I'm not even gonna lie to you. I'm not gonna tell you I followed any of the rules. Anything they told me to do, I did the opposite. But it just allowed me to, like, you know, it was just, art was just, and they were like, just, you know, just focus. And I couldn't, you know, it was more like, you know, it's hard enough remembering the plays and, you know, what last night's homework was. So, growing up through middle school and things like that, my mom was everything. I mean, there was times where we had AAU events, and she would just, you know, get money together to make sure we won. I mean, to make sure I had to make sure I won. You know, that was always a key. You know, if you're going to do it, be the best. You know, so, damn, look at this. This damn bow ties on. Okay, so, come on, but it's all right. So, growing up, okay, so I'm in middle school, and my mom was sick, but I still was playing football. So high school comes, and football, seeing her in the hospital and things like that, it was always on and off. So senior year, she passed. So that was my rock. Like, that was everything I drew, she was always like, nah, that was it. I mean, no, throw that shit in the trash. It's not, doesn't look like them, start over. But anyway, so a guy came, now my brother was in the art, so a guy came and he's like, oh man, my mom's showing, you know, my brother's there, the guy's coming there to see my brother's work. And I mean, my brother's excited, he's at the table, and I'm coming in from playing basketball, I'm all sweaty. My mom's like, oh yeah, he's good, but no, him. So she's like, sit down and draw, and I'm like, no, I don't want to do it. She's like, do it. And I'm like, ah. So I'm drawing something really quick, and I'm like, here. And I got it, walked out, the dude said, oh. And he took his attention off my brother and put it on me, and I kind of felt bad, because it was like, damn. But I knew I was different with that, so I didn't like to compete with my brother. I compete with anybody else in the world, so, sorry. Anyway, I get emotional with that, but anyway. So, I have 2 kids, so high school, playing football, things are going good, and I'm running track as my mom passed. So my teammates and my coaches, college was just there for me. I mean, it was just a struggle. So I had a child, and playing football, that was it. Like, I mean, I thought I was going to the NFL. I had, you know, people, I mean, coming to look. I mean, I had records at Millersville University, you know, things like that. I mean, football was just it. Okay, God, okay, I'm here to play football, let's just go. And in college, the professor's like, look, you're making things in 30 minutes that people are taking 5 days to do. Can you stay in class? And I'm like, hell no, I don't even know what the audibles are for this week. Nah, so I'm sitting here and it's just been a struggle. So they're like, yo, you should really get help. And, you know, honestly, as black men, you're like, oh, I'm not taking no damn medicine, no. And to be honest, you didn't want to be stigmatized like that. So, I wish I would have, because I would have probably remember the plays a lot more, and you know, a lot better. But anyway, so I had a child, had my first daughter, and was trying to focus on football, but also in a relationship. But the move, going up and down, it was kind of very difficult to be in a relationship with someone like that. I understood that, but I also, you know, understood that my job now in life, God said, you are to protect her. Like, this is what nothing else, this is it. So my art and, you know, with my daughter's moms, that's been up and down, going through the court systems, and honestly, I've been working nonstop. And recently, my nephew was murdered while I was at the job, and I wasn't able to call off. And going through that, and trying to, like, you know, being forced to work 65 hours a week to support my child, in rent and things like that. It was just a struggle. So my doctor said, yo, you can't do it no more. It's just too much. You're running a train, you'll kill people. So it was dangerous. So I was just like, okay. So it was just like, God, all right, look, boom. While at the jobs, everybody's like, why are you here? Why are you here? Like, what do you mean why I'm here? I'm trying to make money, just like, you could be doing such and such, and it's just like I never really tapped into it. So recently, for the last 4 years, I honestly been it was like I've really been able to connect with God. So everything I've done in life, I give it to God, and everything that I do, I save most of it digitally. So even now, my daughter, she's over in, she lives in Philly, and we talk every week. And here, with this application, it shows step by step everything that I've done, like every mark that I make, and she would just, follow it, and she's picking up on things. And my other daughter, she's very passionate about art, and it's been a struggle to try to get the custody things together. And it's never been about, I think that a lot of things that goes on in America, or even around the world, is that failed relationships lead to traumatizing the next generation, because it's a cycle of events that get repeated. And if you don't fix it, and it seems like the guys that are trying to fix it, it's harder for them. But the guys that don't give that don't give a damn, but you're still leading these next generations. They're trying to find love from somebody else who you should be the one to teach them that. So the fight with my kids is going to continue until it's over. But I just want to take the moment there to just try to briefly just show you what the things that I make this, that rose back there with the, I'll walk over real quick. I didn't want to make anything. I did wood burning, I did tattoos. I've been tattooing on myself. I figured you do yourself. If it hurts me, it's some shit I might do myself first. But the rose here, I made the rose here just to stand out. I didn't want to make anything. I didn't want it to be basic. Like somebody said, oh, it's somebody. No, I want you to walk into the room. Oh, what the hell? And I just wanted to be different. And it's just, that inspired me to make most of the things, the glitter things around the sides. And also this here is the title of this is called Forever, but really it could be the relationship progressing, and it's just, and that could be a family and things like that. There's so many ways that you can look at it. And also here, I made this specifically for this event. This is Bernard Rustin here. He's historically big in Westchester. He was not only a civil rights movement leader, he also was the LBG, letters leader for that too. I took a picture, there was a picture of those two guys walking, and it looked as if like, oh wow, they're probably talking about a plan. Everything has to start with a plan, and it's always God's plan. So he wasn't able to see it through, but he got to be able to I just think that everything gets so passionate through life, and it's still living here through his school here. It's just, like when you ask somebody when you commission an artist for a piece, it's important for me to look into their eyes and try to see, why do you want it? Why do you want me to do it? Because you can ask anybody else to do it, but why do you want me? So it takes that, to have the stable mood to do everything, to be a painter every day, I can't. To be a wood burner every day, I can't. I gotta just do art every day, from writing songs to, music to everything. And I'm just still exploring and just trying to find out, exactly what God wants me to do exactly. So, but I did audition for America's Got Talent, and I'm waiting for the results. And they should come back within the next, I guess the spring of this year. So I also wrote a song called Mom Star, which you'll be able to see that. I've been saving it for that thing. So it's an awesome song. I also been learning the piano and things like that too. But everything I do, I just want my kids to just explore, just have fun. My mom never told, I used to put her lipstick on a stick and pretend like I killed a deer. She was pissed, but she was like, oh, great job, but don't kill that damn deer again. But it was just like, that type of encouragement on, just let me run wild with my imagination was awesome, and I love her for that.
Hey folks, how you doing? My name is Chad Cortez Everett. I've been doing art for probably about 20 years, back and forth. I'm gonna say all the time at this point. But lovely panel, you guys, I mean, man, it's some tough acts to follow, but I'm gonna do what I gotta do. Pretty much, let me give you my little background information. I went to Temple University Tile School of Art. I got my bachelor's. After that, I went to Maryland Art Institute to get my master's degree in painting. After that, I started working. I'm a middle school teacher. I've been teaching for about 19 years. 19 years. Along the way, I think what really impacted me the most, I ran into so many artists like Dane and several other artists. I was born and raised in Philly, and the issue, I think what made it come out more of my work, my earlier stuff, I felt it was okay. I did a lot of painting, but I felt as though that the paintings were not making the impact that I needed. I mean, I had like a whole drawer of collages in my house, and I was afraid to put those collages out because I felt as though they weren't really considered art. So what happened? COVID rolled around. When COVID rolled around, that's when I said, man, I gotta figure out how I'm going to fuse these paintings with these collage pieces. And the best thing about it was by having that time, having those 2 years, it really made me think about my work in general, because what was happening, I had to find my truth. Because unfortunately, I don't want nobody else to tell my stories, because when other people tell your stories, they never get it right. That's one thing I learned about being an artist. I mean, I was looking at Basquiat documentation about him, and they were like, well, he's a drug addict and a womanizer, and I'm like, dude, I want to see somebody do that to me in the next couple of years. I have to take ownership. I tell people, I was like, at one point in my early career, I was ashamed to tell people a lot of stuff about me. Now I'm like an open book. Yes, I was born in the projects. Yes, I tell my stories through my work according to my perspective. Because I feel as though if I don't tell you the truth, I feel like I'm holding back on you. So I always tell a lot of young artists, when you go out here, you have to speak your truth. I mean, people ask me, why don't you do Black Lives Matter and all this stuff? That's not me. I like to tell my stories, and my work reflects that, and I like to tell people that my stories to me are unique for the simple fact they're about me. I can put as much stuff in there, do this and that, do that, but they're about me. I mean, when I was growing up in the projects, I remember coming out of I was born in Bartram Village projects up in Southwest Philadelphia. When I used to come outside to play, you know, I could smell the urine in the hallways, I could see the junkies walking up and down, the terraces and all that. That kind of stuff interested me. And, you know, it was stuff that I was used to seeing. I'm looking at it and people are like, how did you survive that kind of environment? And I was like, well, I had a strong mom. My dad left, but my mom was there, and she raised me the way she needed to raise me. And the thing about it, like, I can walk over here and talk about my pieces real quick, because I write about my work. That's one thing I do, because of the simple fact, when people look at the work, I want them to get the feel, I want them to understand my story, because when people look at work, they're going to get their own interpretations of what they see. I like to narrow that down and just tell you flat out what the piece is about. This piece right here is called Big Wheel Dreams. I remember when I was small and I had my little big wheel and I used to ride up and down the terrace up in the projects. And the first thing my mom used to yell is, make sure you come home when the light comes on out in the street. And she used to yell down the street. So when the lights came on, she like, Chad, come on, it's time to come home. That stuff right there, you can't relive. That's stuff that I cannot, you know, that's some activities that people cannot imagine. Also, this right here is called Water Plug Blues. When I lived out in the projects, we didn't have air conditioning. We didn't. If you wanted to play in the water, you had Joe Smo on the block that had some pliers, and they would turn on the fire hydrant, and the water would run down the street, and everybody would get out there and play the water plug, even though it was illegal because we weren't hooking up sprinklers. Stuff like that, you know, I like to tell stories like that because some people can't relate to those kind of stories. We all come from different backgrounds, from different upbringings. I feel as though every artist has a story to tell, and I tell my students this all the time. I was like, I'm going to tell you the truth. I'm not going to sit down here and sugarcoat it because of a simple fact, or I'm not trying to follow art trends because I have to accept the fact that I'm not a trend artist. I'm doing my own thing, using my own stuff. I only had maybe about, growing up, I may have had one baby picture and a few childhood pictures, and that was it. I took all those pictures. I was like, I'm putting this stuff in my work because of the simple fact I wanted to articulate this timeline in my life. Also, I used SEPTA materials. I wanted to represent Philadelphia because at one point somebody would ask me, where you come from? I said, I come from Philly. And they were saying, well, why don't you represent Philly in your work? And I was like, that's a good idea. Because my experiences living in Philly really made me into who I am. I mean, I remember hanging out with James Dupree. I remember talking with Richard Watson. I remember hanging out with John Dow in his studios. I remember all that stuff. And those experiences hanging around these different artists made me who I am. I mean, I didn't realize it, because somebody always asks you, when did you know that you wanted to be an artist? And I tell them this, it was back in 91 and 90, I was in the 11th or 12th grade. And I'll never forget, I went at the Civic Center, the old Civic Center, PA Civic Center, they used to have shows, art shows for all the students around the city. What happened, they used to give out money. They used to give out money and everything, and I won a few art contests along the way. I might have won $25 here, $25 there. And I did this painting. It was a simple painting of these guys performing jazz. You had the guy on the drum, you had the guy with the bass guitar in the background, and the painting won. So I went up on stage. I had my suit on and everything. I thought it was gonna be like $25 in this envelope. So they gave me the cash, because they were giving out cash. They weren't giving out checks. So they gave me an envelope, and they had on there who the envelope was from and everything, and who selected the painting. And I opened up the envelope, and I had to do a double take on it because of the simple fact, it was like $700 in there in cash. So I'm looking, I'm like, 1, 2, 3, all right, it's $700. So I went back up and because I thought they made a mistake. So I went back up and I approached the gentleman. I was like, you know it's $700 in here right now. Did y'all make a mistake or anything? He was like, no, that's your money. And from that point on, I got on the payphone, because of course we didn't have cell phones at that time. So I got on the payphone, I called my mom up, I was like, Mom, guess what? She's like, what? I said, I want some money. She's like, oh, you want $25? I was like, nah, not quite, Mom. And I was like, I want $700. And she's like, you're not doing anything illegal, are you? Because you gotta remember, we came out the projects. If you had $700, that means you were doing some crazy stuff. So she told me, she's like, I need you to get your black ass home now. Bring the money with you. So I came home and I had the money and everything, and I gave her the envelope. My mom is looking at the money. She's like, it's $700. I was like, that's what I told you. And she was like, we need to take this, and she was like, this is your thing. This is what you've been working on. Because she was like, you made $700 within one day. Because at first, to me, art was a hobby, but then it started to become a passion. But after that day, it made me realize I do have a gift to share, and I just took it from that point on. I mean, I tell a lot of young artists, you gotta keep going. You just can't stop. 5 doors are shut, but 1 door open. People are going to like your work or they're going to hate your work, but you have to be honest with yourself and the stories that you tell. I feel as though you have to be very transparent with your audience. If not, what happens, I feel as though you're just not really saying what you need to say, and people sometimes get mad and say, well, I don't think I should talk about the work. I think the work should just speak for itself that's on the wall. And I'm like, nah, not really. So, I mean, that was my whole thing, was just getting the work out there, getting out in my studio. I'm very religious. It reflects in my work. I mean, I am very grateful. When I wake up every morning, I'm happy to be able to move around, to go in the studio and do my thing. And I tell people that every day. I was like, I don't care how bad things are, you gotta be grateful for what you have. I mean, stuff is taken away from you just like that. I tell people all the time, being an artist, I enjoy my job, I enjoy teaching. It's like I get paid for what I enjoy what I do, therefore it keeps me young. I mean, I'm 47 right now. I had some people like, you're 30. And I was like, the art keeps me young. Doing it keeps me young, and actually putting pieces together and just coming up with ideas for the pieces. So, I mean, my words of encouragement for any young artists or old artists out here, just be you. Be you in your work. Don't try to follow trends. Don't try to keep up with the Joneses. Keep up with yourself, because at the end of the day, you're looking at the mirror. It's you, yourself, and you, pretty much.
Terrill Johnson, and I'm just grateful to Dane for giving me the opportunity to be amongst, like I said, some of these amazing, talented, spiritually sound, beautiful people, and my condolences to yours. And I just want to say thanks, because it's a joy to share your art. It's a joy to be able to do what we do, and someone may buy it. But that's not the all in all. It's the journey. Me and my brother was just talking about before this even started. The journey, the process of doing what you love, and doing it from the inside out. Because every painting is a diary, is a story, is an experience, is I'm tired of this effing job, and I'm glad that I can go home and create for a living, or make a living doing it. So my background is really not like anybody in this room, because, and we all can say that because we live in different lives. I was a circus clown. My background started out I went to art school and studied, illustration. I started doing illustration, but then I had the love for entertainment and doing comedy and all that stuff, so I went and joined the circus. Well, all you people say, well, how did that happen, and how did you make a 363 degrees turn from art to clowning? But the journey was the same, because this is my personal way of making people smile. When you're around me, you'll start to see that I'm super duper optimistic because of the Most High, and I'm super duper optimistic because of my mother. Just like these gentlemen here, we all, are anchored back to the women who've given us an opportunity to be transparent. We are only, you're making me cry, bro. And I was good, Dave. I was good, Dave. All right, so yeah, just thinking about, God rest my mother's soul, but just thinking about the appreciation of moms who, allow us to be a real fool, so to speak, and praise us. We used to have entertainment night before TV was really big and internet was really big. We were just, nothing would be on, and we just entertain each other and make jokes, and that's how I got my start. And I'm one of 11. I'm sorry. I'm one of 11 children. Big family like my brother over there, and I learned a lot of just being me through them. I'm just a fragment of them, because they're just doctors and bridge builders and sheriff was in the prison, and psychologists and all these great minds. And I used to think, well, Dad, what do I have to say? And I realized the value of what I had to say was just as important as the journey and the process. So my father was a jazz musician, so I incorporate jazz, and I'll go over and just give you a little tape, and I might pull out my juggling balls and just the process of what I did. I'm formally trained in illustration, so I love realism. But I've been taking a new approach to my work, and I've been approaching, which all is the same. It's no different. Realism is no different from abstraction and abstraction. They're all the same. As long as you find yourself being joyful about what you do, making it, that's the journey for me, making it real, is doing it every day. And I do it every day. So here are some of my abstractions, and this is a take on coming out of troubled times to a high time, knowing that joy is just around the corner. Joy is just a happy song, and I love singing. And so I sing and play music all the time in the studio. But this was created with happy music. So this was an influence to, first I do is I just kind of like meditate and pray. And then I go into listening to music and I allow myself not to be influenced by just the music. I'm influenced by color. I'm influenced by texture. It's a lot of texture you'll notice in my work. So I'll do a lot of collage and texture. And I think about it as a person who's blind. And I'll feel that texture and just, how does that feel to me? So I'm really, truly an intuitive painter, just like when you're a child walking in the grass and the grass has got that morning dew and you feeling that morning dew. That's how I approach painting, from all my senses. I'm sure we all do the same, but all my senses. Sometimes I get butt naked in the studio, but that's not none of y'all business. And so sometimes, I just allow myself to be free. And here's some more of my pieces. These are more pure abstraction, but they are intuitive processes with, I have saved paper, receipts and things, and personal items are in up the picture. And then if I'm dealing, like this one was just found the new love in my life. And I started writing the word love on a scrap of paper. And then from that love, I started to realize, no, I'm kidding. That love was good, and it wasn't judgmental, and it was just, acceptance of us as an artist. Because, as artists, it's tough for our mates sometimes to like, hey, where's the income? Where's this going? Where's that going? And I still, when the opportunities come, like I said, I had to learn marketing. I had to learn, how to push myself and be able to brand myself. And so I'm constantly publicizing it. I'm sharing it. I go out and I do, like I said, like I was saying earlier with my clowning and things. So I do all types of things. And like I traveled around the world doing clowning. I was in 2 circuses. And so all of this, all my journey has been artistic, although I worked my whole life doing things to pay for my passion. But at the same time, I had to realize, how do I be true to myself? So I said, I got to just jump in deep and don't look back and just walk by faith. And that's what I've been doing. I give all honor and praise to the Most High for allowing me to have the opportunity through friends like Dane, who's always given me good advice and always set me up for opportunities, and good friends like Richard Watson, and some of the panels. We're going to be in touch. Let's stay in touch, because that's how it grows. And then also I want to give a really huge shout out to my art teacher that's sitting right there, who's actually taught me anatomy, and his lovely aunt, Miss Louise Clements, who's also a huge. I went to Flesher and I took drawing classes, photography classes, but my drawing classes with Louise Clements, studying anatomy, studying still life, has really grounded me as a painter, as an artist. And I can't, and she would always tell me, Louise was, hey, look, we just can't be a typical artist. You have to be exceptional, and you have to put everything you got in what you do. And so that resonated with me. It became real, that I knew that I couldn't just make a pretty picture. I have to make a statement. I have to be bold. I have to be aggressive and confident in everything that I do, and know that someone's going to be walking home or experiencing what I experience on a personal level. So that's what gets me, high and excited about creating. And any questions before I get to talking to you?
Thomas Hamilton. I'm an artist. I started art very early, and I used to get into contests in the recreation department, and I would win. And What they used to do, they didn't give out money and stuff like that. But what they used to do is give you 2 weeks at the Philadelphia Museum of Art in their camps, which I thought was more valuable than money at the time. And it really was. Because you got to go to the camp and you got to wander around the art museum the entire day and look at work and study work. And that's what I used to do. I graduated from the Hutchins School of Art as an illustrator. When I first graduated, very hard to find a job. It took me almost a whole year. I landed a job with Buren N, Yellow Pages, paid the bills, got to do a line work. And one day walking down the street, I saw a sign for a illustrator of technical manuals. So I went in, showed him my work, so I got that job as a freelancer. I became a member of the Philadelphia Artists Guild. And every week, once a week, you would have a meeting and they would critique anything that you've done. Well, I always carry a sketchbook. I'm always drawing people, always. I find that there's a certain amount of energy in a person and you try to capture it and put it on the paper for people to see. And that's what I would do. I had challenges while painting. Sometimes you see a painting on the wall and you say, well, I want to do that painting. And you try it and you try and you try and it doesn't work. It doesn't come out. And I found that if you try and push it, it doesn't work that way. The creative forces don't come out. One time I was working on a watercolor and I was trying and trying, and it was late at night. And I had just put my daughter to sleep. And the house is quiet. And I fell asleep trying to do this watercolor. It was a small watercolor. It was very tight, very realistic. And I messed it up. Fell asleep, woke up about half an hour later and did the watercolor perfectly. And I had to take the next 2 weeks figuring out how it was done. Because I could not figure out how I did that. And people say that you have a muse. That's true. That's very true. And they'll whisper something and you'll try it and it'll go right. But it may not go completely. You got like part of it. And then you got to get away from it and come back and work on it again. But you can't push it. It was interesting. When working at Buren N, I started getting freelance work because what I did was I took the advice of the guild, and they said, "Well, we want you to go to this agency in New York and take your work. You have an invite." So I went there. They liked the work, and I started working as a freelancer for Mulvey's Associates at the time, and doing children's textbooks and stuff like that, which is one of the reasons why most of the items up there are different techniques on the back wall. And generally small for books, so that when you reduce it, it doesn't lose too much definition. But I've started doing oils. There's a gentleman, picture of a gentleman right there, Native American, with bullet holes around the back. That picture was one of those where you're trying to push it, and it's not coming out. And you say, all right, what's on television? Because you take a break. And you come back, and you have your sketchbook open. Because you don't want to mess up your good paper. I mean, you paid all this money for this paper, and it's like, I'm not going to make mistakes on this paper. So you open up your sketchbook, and you're doing stuff in your sketchbook, and there it is. Boom. It comes out. It's alive. The intensity is there, the energy is there, the light's there. So what do? You cut it out of the sketchbook and you frame it. You can try and do it again, but you had to figure it out first how you did it. And that's one of the biggest challenges. It's an ongoing process, and that's what I do. Thank you.
First of all, I want to thank John, my good buddy over there, for I'm grateful. I'm so grateful for my friends to come out here and support this show. John, literally was about a month and a half ago, he says, hey, what are we doing for February? He said, you want to do something for February? I said, okay, let's make something happen. Within a half hour when I got home, I had at least 10 artists saying yes. Okay? So I'm grateful for my friends. All these guys have impacted my life. I just met Cardoza, but every one of these guys have been a major influence in my life as a full-time artist. I've been full-time now for 38 years. It just seems like yesterday when I started. I remember those early days again, like most of these guys. I started drawing when I was probably 5, actually probably 4. My brother used to draw. My older brother, he would draw, so he was a year and a half older than me, so I would follow him, around. If he did something, I wanted to do something, so I was bugging him. He went to, elementary school. I was home drawing. Then when I went to Paoli Elementary School, kindergarten, I would always hang around with other artists who could draw anything. I remember he was talking about drawing army scenes and dinosaurs and things like that. That's what I used to do because somebody else could do it. So I was like a little mercenary. I would just follow them. They thought I wanted to be their friend. I wanted to know how they did what they did. So that followed me all through elementary school and into junior high, and I went to Conestoga High School, where they had an art major program at Conestoga High School. We're talking in the 70s. So I spent most of my time either in woodworking or ceramics with Paul Bernhardt or Mr. Mickey. That's where I spent most of my time. But when it came time to go to college, now my grades were okay. My SATs were in the basement, okay? I had to go to, I went to Kutztown State College because that was the only one that I could get in at the time. I applied to Rhode Island School of Design, Tyler School of Art, Pennsylvania Council on the Philadelphia College of Art. I got shot down by everybody, because my portfolio sucked. That's the bottom line. I spent most of my time either in woodworking or ceramics. So I get into Kutztown, I start to, excel. Now, again, I didn't think I was smart. I really didn't, back then, because I went to Paoli Elementary School, and the civil rights movement was just kind of, blossoming. I remember when Martin Luther King got assassinated, I wanted to beat up anybody who was in the hallway. I'm telling you, 1968. So they always put us in remedial reading classes, black kids. Always put us in remedial reading classes. So I had this thing about not being as smart as they were, okay? And it followed me through junior high school, right into Conestoga. Same thing, always remedial this, they never challenged us. That made me mad. So when I went to Kutztown, I went in there with one purpose, to graduate. That was my main purpose, because I was the first person in my whole clan that ever went to college, and I knew I was graduating, because I had all those generations looking at me, cloud of witnesses, as they say. So anyway, it took 6 years out of college before I went full-time. I had 26 different jobs, and I was 26 when I quit my last job. So that means I started working when I was 1 year old, okay? Working again. Just kidding. So anyway, I hated working for people, I really did. But so when I went full-time, I wasn't married, I was in between marriages actually, and I just needed enough money to pay the rent. That's all I needed, which was only $200, actually $300 a month at that time. And I never paid it on time, never paid it on time. Thank God for Mrs. Cunningham, who's 100 years old now. So that's how I got going. Got married the second time. My obligations as a husband, you know, went higher, financial obligations and that sort of thing. But I, you know, hey, being a child of God, I knew that, you know, I was going to make it somehow, some way. Went through all the various things, you know, ended up having my daughter at, I think, let's see, 87 we got married. So 1990, we had our first child. And that was very expensive, terrible insurance and all that sort of thing. And God somehow got us through that. And then I got sick and I was in the hospital for 7 days, and that was a huge bill. Didn't know how we're gonna pay that one, but God's grace got us through that one. You know, when it came to getting a house, which took about maybe 4 years after Lauren was born, 3 years after she was born, I just put this image on the refrigerator. And I had my studio in the corner of the apartment where we lived. And I had on my little lamp there, it says, it was Philippians 4:19, my God will supply all of my needs according to his riches and glories in Christ Jesus. I saw miracles after miracles. Miracles. We're talking financial miracles. And somehow we end up getting this house, you know, in where I live now. And again, still saw miracles and just watch God take us higher and higher and through all. I end up painting, I painted almost 8,000 original paintings in my career. I was painting 300 pieces a year on average. Why? Because I was the breadwinner. I had, you know, I was, you know, married for 35 years. Roz, my wife, she was right there, you know, for the most part, the whole time. You know, we had our ups and downs like every marriage does and everything. But I knew that I had to make it happen. I came from a family of my mother and father were there, my brothers and sister, you know, working class people, everybody worked. Everybody worked, dog worked, you know, so everybody worked. I mean, that's just the way it was, so I worked. But I worked at art. I was on 35 shows a year on average and things like that. You know, each one of these guys I met along the line, probably at a festival here and there. You know, Charles J., I met him in Westchester at the Merrill Collection Gallery. Van Payne, known him of him for quite a while and finally met him down there in Chester. Andy, at the festivals, knew of him. You know, they used to get us confused all the time, thinking we're the only two black guys out there. That's funny. My buddy Gilberto, man, we used to have this thing called the Mixed Media Group, and we used to do shows, put on our own shows in Philly and whatnot. And I remember when Gilberto went to Stroman's, and you know, I mean, hardworking brother, you know, he had a family too, you know, and I was like trying to get him to come over here. You know, we're gonna do this together. And he was like, man, I gotta get a job, you know. You know, I'm telling you. Ben, you know, one of my best friends, we used to do a lot of golfing together. And Ben took videos of me, you know, of course, you know, he charged reasonably, but you know, they were really good videos. I'm telling you. Good man. I grew up in the same neighborhood.
We got some good art in it.
What's that?
We got some good art in it.
What?
You got videos that we got.
Yeah, I worked with you. But I grew up with Ben. He was a hero in the neighborhood because he was a tremendous athlete. You know, I remember he was probably 10 years older than me. And I, you know, followed his career up at Great Valley and everything. He was a superstar. Richard, met him at Westchester University when I was doing an artist in residence there. It was the first time I met him. Just met this young man here. It's awesome. Chad, we've known, what, about 20 years maybe?
Yes,
I can't remember where we met, man.
All over the place.
Somewhere along the line. And Terrill at a festival, I believe, in Philly. You know, and this guy, my God, we go all the way back to 1983, where we used to work for Eleazar Associates, which is my only job. I mean, my degree was actually in advertising. I only had one job out of the 26 that was involved with graphic arts, and that's where I met this gentleman here. So I just want to say thank you. I want to say thank you for coming out here today. This is my artwork. I got 3 pieces over there. 1, 2, 3 over here. Watercolor pencil and watercolors was my first mediums that I worked in. And anytime I worked in a medium, I wanted to master it. Okay, so I got really good. But then, guess what? I got bored. I got bored with just going realism. I changed mediums in 2000, year 2000, over to acrylics. And that was basically literally starting all over again, like learning how to ride a bike again. You know, so I fought my way through the process, but I learned the same thing that I did in watercolor and pencil, which basically was practice, 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 practice. Being committed to mastery is the same thing that I did, you know, with my acrylic painting. Same thing. So I'm still on that journey. I've slowed down a little bit, got other interests and whatnot, in transition in my life and all of that. So, but I'm glad to be above ground. Thank you.
The 4 photographs in the back with the black frames are mine.
Tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm a graduate of Alvernia University, 2006. My artist journey it began as a music artist. I think it was 2008. I had a photo shoot, and I ended up paying $400. I'll never forget it. I paid $400 for that photo shoot, and from that point forward, I vowed to never pay that much for a photo shoot ever again. So I went and bought my first point-and-shoot camera, and since 2008, I've been on this journey. Now I do portraits, landscapes, weddings, infants, you name it, I do it. I don't consider myself a videographer or a photographer. I consider myself a visual consultant. I also dabble in graphics, logo designs, things of that nature. So that's pretty much my story, brief.